Welcome to another exciting episode of the Biz Show, sponsored by InvestQuire. And now, your host, Barry and Lisa.
Hey, Barry.
Lisa, how you doing today?
Happy podcast number 10.
Congratulations. We've got 10 podcasts under our belt here.
You didn't fire me yet.
And vice versa. It goes either way, right?
Oh my gosh, what a great day. The sun is shining. It's beautiful outside.
Welcome to sunny Southern California, right?
That's right.
Although we have had a lot of rain lately.
Oh, I know. Orange County. We don't know what to do with all this rain.
Yeah. I wish I could capture it and put it in reservoirs so we can get rid of the droughts that we have here. But
exactly.
I guess we'll get there at some point.
I know. Well,
listen, we're in podcast 10, right? So this one is actually kind of meat and potatoes of business brokers, right?
And it's really important for businesses to understand.
It is.
If they're getting prepared to sell, they're going to want to understand how their business is getting valuated.
Right. And that's what this is, how business valuations are calculated.
There's so many variables that go into it.
There's three major types of valuations. A lot of companies only use one.
Oh.
We use all three.
We like to incorporate as much data and information so that we can fully understand the value of a business and sell it at the correct market value.
Right. Well, you know, as we talk about the three different valuations, some are better than others, and more important. And some things that are valued in one might not be valued at all in another.
Right.
That's why we like to use all three of the types of valuations to come up with a holistic number.
I guess it depends on also the type of business, maybe, which one may be heavier in assets versus, well, we'll get more into it as we go along in the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But, you know, everybody's always wondering, what's my business worth?
And it's not only to sell. Some people want to evaluate the business for other reasons.
Yep. And we're going to talk about those. You know, but I know that you and I both get a lot of comments. Oh, well, my business, you know, it's worth $1 million. It's worth $2 million.
Right.
And then when we start the valuation, we're like, no, your business is only worth $200,000.
Right.
So again, you know, we said this in the past, but all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into building your business don't count.
Exactly.
So
sweat equity.
You know, sweat equity is great, like when you're remodeling a home and adding on to it and stuff like that. And perhaps in the business, if you're adding on to it, but when it comes to building the business and stuff like that, it doesn't really matter.
And really, it's the proven financials is really what shows the value too. But you know, we want to have as much information as we can and gather about the company before we're going to give it the valuation. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of it all.
Let's start talking about why would you need an evaluation for your?
Well, we mentioned the first one. Selling your business is number one.
Selling it, right? You got to know how much it's worth, because when we go and list your business, we got to have a dollar amount for that so the buyers know, you know, what's the asking price of your business.
Yeah, we'll look at your SDE and your EBITDA, and we'll figure out what the multiplying factor would look like in order to get you a most probable sales price. That's all going to be calculated for you, and we'll explain that step of the process for you if you are planning to sell your company.
Yep. So the second one is less known, but, you know, people are attracting investors, right? So a lot of times investors, they want to know how much the company's worth right now, this very moment, before they invest in it.
Got it. Right.
So guess what? You need an evaluation of your company. You can't, again, just pull an arbitrary number out of space and here it is.
And we will provide that service for you if you need it.
Absolutely. Another one is
estate planning.
Estate planning, right? You're putting a trust together and you know,
that's what
the liquidation of assets at a certain time or whatever the case might be.
They'll want to know what it is valued at today.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is mergers and acquisitions, right?
Right.
Which is acquisitions is buying businesses. Mergers are two businesses merging together.
Similarly to selling your business, right?
Right. But evaluation needs to be done probably on both companies.
Right.
You know, if it's a merger. Yeah.
Good financial sense.
And then here's one of the really less known ones. Your bank.
It's sort of like a thing that you forget. Oh, shoot, now I need to know my value because you're filling out a
loan application.
A loan application.
Right.
It's your lender, you're trying to obtain financing, a clear picture of your business's financial health and good standing of your company so you're able to get the loan.
Exactly. So what's your company worth? Well, we'll be able to tell you that, right? And there's various different models that we go through and use in order to do that. So let's talk about those.
And also, like, just looking at your company's value, I mean, maybe it will help you set goals for the future, right? We talked about exit strategies on our last podcast, but it's great information to really dive into and learning what the valuation of your company is, so you can also structure goals and a strategy around your company.
You know, I've stressed so many times, I'm blue in the face, goals, plans, strategies. You need to come up with those for your business. If you want to be successful and you want to see your business succeed, and, you get to define what succeed is, right? Whether it's money, whether it's, market space, whatever the case might be. But you got to have a plan, right?
Yeah, stay ahead of the game.
I need a roadmap, right? If you're going from here to New York, you just don't hop in a car and start driving and follow the sun.
Right.
You're going to go in a circle. You're going to be right back where you started from. Eventually, after 24 hours, right? So, got to have those plans.
Right.
Well, let's talk about the 3 different types.
So one of the types is an asset-based valuation.
Yes, asset-based. And
What are assets?
What are assets?
What are your assets?
Well, assets are inventory. They could be property, could be cash, investments, equipment, intellectual property, brand recognition, customer lists. There's tangible and there's intangible. They're kind of equal and the same, but what's tangible? You can touch it. You can feel it, right? That's your inventory. That's your cash. Intangible are the things like intellectual property, your marketing and brand recognition.
So these assets would transfer with the company if you were to sell or have a merger or acquisition?
You just brought something up, and I did a acquisition a few years back.
Yeah.
And only half of the assets transferred.
Oh, why is that? What did they do with the assets?
Well, they wanted to keep the other assets for themselves.
Oh, okay. So that would then give a lower valuation of the company.
They gave a lower valuation of the company.
Transfer
all the assets. They transferred about 60%, but there's about 40% that they kept for themselves. So that was equipment, trucks, cars, things like that.
That sounds like a unique airplane, but that stuff does come up.
It does. Cool. It had an airplane.
Like, I need my airplane, right?
I am a pilot. You need someone to fly you around.
So tangible assets, we talked about inventory, like the raw materials, all of the products that you might have on the shelves.
Yeah, and that could be manufacturing. It could be, computers. It could be printers. It could be a lot of different things, right?
Property equipment would be the office equipment that you just mentioned.
Yep.
Okay.
Along with buildings and other, wear and tear type of items and stuff like that.
Some real property.
Yes, absolutely real property.
And then like cash in the bank, right? The cash on your balance sheet that you have, that would be considered an asset.
The cash and also the debt, really, if you think about it, that might subtract from it depending on what type of debt it is.
Right.
And then so your intangible assets, right? What are those? That's your intellectual property, trademarks, copyrights, software, patents.
And those have a value based on what? The strength of the potential future that it will generate for you.
I've written software in the past, and once that software is done, it's sold off, it has a value to it. Right. And the nice thing about software is once you write the software, you sell it to many people.
Yeah.
The same software. So
exactly. So there you go.
That's why computer programmers and stuff like that, they have expensive salaries and stuff like that because, they're really deep dive dealing in building the code. But then once it's called, then the company starts making money because now they sell it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yep. IT.
I've always advised, I've had a client not too long ago, and they were debating whether doing, hardware and software. I'm like, forget the hardware. Hardware's every 6 months change.
You have to change it.
It's obsolete. So forget the hardware. Focus on the software.
Right.
I mean, the software, you need to update it. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be patches, security issues and stuff like that. But it's a lot more
worthy.
Yes, exactly. Okay, back to intangibles, right?
And brand recognition is another one.
Yeah, customer
reputation, customer loyalty associated with your brand name.
Yep.
So that is definitely has value because your track record shows, in the proven results of your customers that you have.
Exactly. And here's one coming up, customer list, right? We have a customer that we're in talks with right now that's got a pretty significant customer list.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And some really big names on that list that they do business with.
And they could be repeat clients that bring you future profitability.
Exactly. So
we incorporate that into the valuation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the benefits of it all, of this asset-based valuation,
it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, you're looking at the assets, you're counting them up, so on and so forth.
Yep.
And so it's pretty easy to take care of. Sometimes the intangibles, it's kind of hard to put a value on a customer list or marketing, but there are models for that.
Right.
And definitely models that we use. So what are the drawbacks really, right? The most and the biggest drawback for asset-based valuations is it focuses on
the past.
Yeah.
Because it's looking at all your inventory and equipment and then the cash in the bank account. But sometimes it's hard to project what the income could be for the future. On asset-based because
it is because the assets are already there.
And you're also depreciating those assets.
You are. And that's why we like to use all three different types, because this is just, in my opinion, one
glance at it. Yeah.
One silo or whatever you want to call it, the valuation.
Right. And then you might undervalue the intangible assets, right?
Yeah, you might. You got to be careful on that, right? As I said, there are models that kind of follow that. So the second, and probably the biggest one, and what a lot of companies use, is income-based.
Your financial records, right?
And we ask for those.
Your QuickBooks report, profit and loss statements.
Your financial statements, your P&Ls, your taxes.
I mean, that's your first glance at a company. And then you want to break it down with all those other things.
It is a glance. The thing is you're always looking at a window in time, right? So when I'm looking and you're looking at a company, we're looking right through this very moment.
Right.
But tomorrow, it's a different moment.
Exactly.
Next week, it's a different moment.
Right. And then the buyer or whoever's looking at your valuation report will be able to surmise some questions from the valuation that's income-based. They may say, why is March till September, your profitability went down, but the other months it's high? So seasonality.
Use an analogy of a restaurant, right? Restaurants have good months and bad months, right?
Right.
So they also have good days and bad days. Paydays are really great days. In between paydays, kind of not so much.
Right.
So those are things. So we want to look at, all the financials on this, right? We want to look at your taxes. We want to look at your P&Ls. We also, want to take a look at your EBITDA, right? Does everybody know what EBITDA is?
Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation,
and amortization.
And
what that does is that kind of gives us a snippet into the health of your company, right? So once we start taking depreciation, the taxes, the amortization, and all that,
it's like gross income, if you will.
Almost, yeah.
Right?
And so that gives us a better litmus test of, is this company healthy? Or, after you take all this stuff out, as it fell in
negative, right?
Yeah. And
hopefully not.
So this actually does
encompass future projection.
It does.
Yeah.
Right? Because, as you
have a history of track record of your sustainability.
And we asked all of our customers, give us 3 to 5 years of your financials, right? So that we can start looking at the trends.
Right.
And then, so when you're selling the business, we're looking at the trend,
which will help you future
moving forward. So the new buyer can go, oh, hey, I can expect to make $750,000 this next year.
Right. Not have to worry about it.
Yes. Yeah. As long as they're staying on track. So,
So this approach is so attractive to investors, right?
It is, absolutely. I mean, how can it not be?
Right. It'll be a very stable way to look at the company. It shows the stability.
It does show the stability. So what are the drawbacks on this one? The biggest drawback, and we've hit this so many times, it pulled my hair out.
The reliance on the accuracy of your client's documentation.
Keywords, accuracy.
Yeah.
So how many times have we gotten documents and, oh, I forgot to put the rent in, or, hey, I forgot.
Or even the classification of their expense doesn't make sense. You have to ask questions of, what does this mean?
Right. So when we get these, yes, we go through that.
Go through with a fine-tooth comb and come up with a list of our own questions in order to make sense of it sometimes. So
Yeah,
to be very descriptive and specific in your financials is very important.
it is, because guess what? We are the ones on the front line selling your business. And when the buyer comes to us and says, hey, I'm going to buy this business, but what's this?
Need to have an answer.
We got to have an answer. We can say, I don't know, let's get back to you
Don't want to make it look like we're hiding something.
we don't want to make it look like we're hiding something.
Evaluate the company.
And time is our worst enemy, right?
Yeah,
So if it takes us a week to get back to them, chances are they've already gone on to a different business.
exactly.
So that's the biggest drawback, right?
And also the economic downturn,
Yeah,
industry fluctuation
2000,
might impact your future.
2020 was a big economic.
Who knew? I think somebody knew.
I was working
So we didn't.
I was working with a chain of restaurants, and the chain of restaurants was doing really well. 2020 hit, COVID hit,
Right?
right? They went from making $2,500 to $5,000 a day to making $400 a day. If some days $200 a day.
Right.
So actually, we shut a few of the restaurants down temporarily only, just so that we could come up with a game plan. How do we combat this? And we went down, sat down, figured it out. Well, first of all, this restaurant wasn't part of the Uber Eats, DoorDash. It was more of a sit-down, dine-in restaurant.
Yeah.
So we changed that model and made it more of a takeout. And boom, sales popped right back.
Wow.
Not only did they pop up,
Yeah.
they went up another 40%. So it went from $5,000 to May to almost $8,000 a day
Amazing.
in sales.
Yeah.
Dining rooms were closed, right? So people couldn't come in and eat
It was
anyway.
all to-go orders and
But it took us about 30 to 60 days to kind of formulate a plan, and then you got to put all the processes in place, right?
adjust to that.
You had to reach out to the vendors and get all the mechanisms in place and stuff like that. Again, another model of why you need to be able to adapt and have a plan.
Flexibility
Yes,
in your business, right?
right. All right, so the third
Market-based evaluation is
market,
all about your comparable. What did the company sell for? So we're in a similar industry or a similar marketplace, right?
right.
But there's a lot of variances too, so you need to make sure that you're getting accurate data when you're taking this.
Well, that's it. Just because, let's say you have a construction company, right? And that construction company does $5 million a year in business,
Mm-hmm.
and the comparable does $500,000.
Right.
What's the size of those things? I mean, what's the asset value to company A versus company B?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe company A has, 10 work trucks and dump trucks,
Lot more
bulldozers, and
Yeah.
that's why you and I.
And it could be a sole proprietor that's making the $5 million, he could be doing more business because he's got less overhead. So there's a lot of variables and
There's a lot of weird,
factors to come into play, not just because they're similar industries. So,
and that's why at InvestQuire,
and then you have to adjust for that.
we use all three.
The evaluation.
You do have to adjust for that, right? Because there's different, price per earnings and stuff like that.
That's when the financial data would have more heavily weighed.
Right. So the benefits on this one, is it reflects the current market sentiments, right?
Right.
So we know what the market's doing, and
What is a buyer willing to pay?
yeah,
So we do have to take that into account.
the drawbacks are it's hard for us to find truly comparable companies
That
to your
Maybe
company.
sold recently. They could be very old sale. And
Yeah.
different market and different time, different inflation in the economy. And so,
Yeah,
so it's just, that's the challenging factor there. And if there's nothing, then you really got to weigh on the other ways to evaluate the company.
the fluctuations in the market, right? And what about interest rates?
Yeah, that would affect the saleability of a company.
Yeah, because interest rates are a lot different than they are today than they were in 2020
Right.
or 2018.
Right.
And you're going to pay a whole lot more on the money that you need to borrow
Mm-hmm.
for that business. So those are all things that we really need to pay attention to. And us at InvestQuire, we want to make sure that we give you the best valuation possible. That's why we use all three of these together.
We'll definitely give you a thorough analysis.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk briefly about employees just for a minute, right? Because employees, they're classified, or are they classified as tangible, intangible, or liabilities, right? So I've said this many times in the past. As a past CEO, I've always classified, at least in my mind, um,
As a liability?
is a asset
Oh, you have in your mind.
in my mind.
But on paper,
On pay, they're a liability because
Yeah.
payroll is a liability, right?
right.
So,
It's an expense of doing business.
it is.
But you see them as an asset because they're helping you be productive.
Well, let's face
They're
it,
helping your company thrive and surround you.
this isn't going to go anywhere without employees,
Right.
right?
You can't, there's no I in the word team.
There's not.
We've talked about this before.
Last podcast we talked
Yeah.
about it, and I was trying to spell it with an I, only in fun.
Right.
But yeah, it's you got to build your team, right? And as you build your team, your employee pool grows, and those are part of the business sell. Because when you sell the business, the employees go with it,
Correct.
right?
And then the new business owner may have a strategy on, changing the way that they run the company. So maybe there would be layoffs and that sort of thing. So then that to them, that would be truly a liability for the company. And they have plans on how to make the company more profitable.
Right. So everyone's got their own plan, right?
Yes.
So the old owners had a plan, and then the new owners has a plan, and they might be different. And employees do have to realize that, right? Change is inevitable. And I would say this: I am a merchant for change, right? Because without change, you don't grow,
Right.
and that's personally and in business, right? The good example is this, right? You got a company that's doing really well; they're number one in the market, and I'll use an analogy: BlackBerry, right? 20 years ago, 15 years ago, BlackBerry was the number one cell phone, right? People were texting like crazy and all that.
The little ball in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh,
And well, they laid back on the laurels.
Yeah.
We're number one, and woohoo.
Yeah.
And guess what? Apple and Samsung just blew right by them, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute.
yeah.
You know what? They're not even in the cell phone business anymore.
No. It's crazy.
So the business is still there, but now they're into security and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
But from a valuation standpoint, when you do have employees, it may show the strength and the sustainability of the business, knowing that you've been paying these employees over a period of time to run your business. So it shows your business strength with it.
it does show you business strength. I mean, you've got, a trackable payroll and stuff like that, right? So there's a history of that we can see and track.
Right.
And, we can also see if your company has grown in employees or has declined in employees.
Right. Like if it's hindered or helped your brand loyalty and your customer satisfaction.
And then from there, we're looking at your financials going, hey, look, they took a big dip in pay or in their cash flow or their revenue, should I say. And so, yeah, some employees, it declined in employees.
Right.
Whereas when you had an increase in your revenues, perhaps you've gained more employees. But we can get all that stuff and fit all that stuff out in the financials as we're going through it.
Which will help us explain that to a potential buyer or investor or somebody.
And buyers ask questions.
Yes.
They ask a lot of questions.
So we want to understand the inside of your company. So the analysis part could be grueling, but it's definitely going to be beneficial to you.
Let's face it. Nobody is going to know your business better than you.
Right.
Right. But we need to be second.
We need to be second.
Right. We, at least for a period of time while we're selling your business, we need to understand your business.
Right.
And your business model and where you're heading with it, so on and so forth, so that we can then answer and fill those questions with buyers.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, perhaps we're going to stay behind with the new buyer and help them get acclimated to the company, maybe fill in some knowledge gaps or skill gaps that they don't have. Perhaps maybe you might stay behind as an employee for a year, whatever the case might be.
Right.
So all things to be taken in consideration. And guess what? If you are going to stay behind as an employee, that adds value to the company too.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
That would be a great marketing point for the buyer.
Yes. So, the old owner of the company is going to stick around for a year while they help acclimate the new buyer to the company. Because what do you need to know? You need to know who the vendors are. You need to know who the employees are. You need to know who your customers are.
Yes. A great way to train the new business owner on how to properly run your company and make it be successful.
I've seen it in the past where there's a flip of the switch. Boom. Okay, sold the business. Here's the keys. Goodbye. See ya.
Yeah.
And oof. And then the new buyer's sitting there going, okay, where's my best employee? I need your help.
Yeah, there's some lag time.
And then that employee doesn't know everything about the business because most times the previous owner didn't share everything with them.
Right.
Exactly. So you've just lost a lot of knowledge that walked out that door. So,
right. So choosing the right approach to evaluating your business is a balancing act. Like I said,
it is.
Like Jerry and I talked about today's podcast, is just really diving into all of those areas that we talked about, your assets, your financial statements, your employees, your intangible assets, all of it, and just determining where do we want to focus if we were to evaluate your company? Where's the strongest reflection and picture of your book of business? And that's where we would be able to give you the appropriate valuation.
Yeah, none of these are a single best method, right?
Right.
For us, the best method is all three of them combined together because it gives us a holistic picture.
What tells the best story.
Yeah. And then in turn, we can tell the best story and market your business the best when we're doing the business evaluation. So what are the next steps? Well, for the next couple of podcasts, we're actually going to be diving into some more valuation things like, some insider tips, things that...
how to maximize.
Yeah, how to maximize. You and I have said this many times in previous podcasts. If you want to sell your business, you need to think about that maybe a year prior to so that you can start preparing your business and getting it ready for the sale.
Get your ducks
before the sale.
Right? Get your financials in order. Create new habits and systems in your company. And we could help you with that too if that's not one of your strengths.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's make sure, that you guys...
These are really important podcasts for any business owners out there.
It is.
We're not just here to say, hey, let me sell your business for you, but we want you to listen to these podcasts and take a nugget out of it and maybe change the way that you're running your own company.
If we can help you, great. That's what we're here to do, right? If you need our help, you can reach us at our website at investquire.com.
Or Facebook, The Biz Show.
Or The Biz Show on Facebook.
Instagram.
LinkedIn. Lisa Manifold, Very Best Pitch. We're all here to help you.
Have a wonderful day.
You guys take it easy, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.